Welcome to Ufilmee, my film review show where it's me versus you versus the movie. To get it started, man, I'm gonna go ahead and review a movie. It was probably the biggest release of this year, probably the biggest release of some time. One of my favorite movies, one of my favorite film franchises from when I was young. I'm gonna do Star Wars, The Force Awakens. What's up, everybody? It's me, Jrod, the javelin-wielding Jedi from Jakku, and today we're here for another great episode of Ufilmee. One that is about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and one that I'll also need to preface. I just watched every Star Wars that exists that's canon in chronological order, besides the animated ones, all the live-action ones. I just watched, I think it's 2 days ago now, I guess. On Friday night, I started with the prequels, episode 1, 2, and 3. Then I watched Rogue One. Then I watched the original trilogy, episode 7. And once all that was done, I had a couple more hours before I was going to go see The Last Jedi. And I did, and I didn't sleep until after all of that was over. But now I'm here to try to review and digest what The Last Jedi really was. I am definitely not going to say that the negatives that I have outweigh the positives that I have for this movie. Even though I might talk about the negatives a little longer because they might need some explaining and some emphasis. I still consider this a good film. It was actually a great film, and the fan service parts and a lot of things that they did in this film were great. But there were a lot of things that I can't say were great and that we'll have to talk about. So let's get into it. And I'm going to start with the positives because, like I said, I'm not going to have a lot to say about the positives, but I'll get into that. The first positive, Porgs. Aren't Porgs great? Another positive was Luke. Seeing Luke on screen, holding a lightsaber, talking, doing things. It was just great. We're doing some incredible Jedi feats for the short period of time that he did was amazing. Leia, also seeing Carrie Fisher reprise her role as Princess Leia, her final performance. It was beautifully done. I think so. Her role was so graceful, so powerful, even though she wasn't in her traditional, Princess Leia role. She was still saving the galaxy in her own way, and it was great. And I think I'll get into some stuff. I'll get into that with the next point. Their use of Jedi powers and abilities was great because it was sort of like the stuff that you heard Jedis could do, or the stuff that online it says the Jedis could do, or in the legends and the stuff that's no longer canon that Jedis could do. They were doing that in the movie, which brings it back into the canon. It shows Luke was creating Force visions, and I don't think they've never done in canon a Jedi creating Force visions or Force holograms, like Force constructs, because he created a lightsaber in his visions, and he could fight Kylo Ren and use the Force in his vision. It was really incredible. Also, Carrie Fisher, who, if you guys didn't know, it was already confirmed in the original trilogy that Carrie Fisher was Force sensitive.
Luke, don't talk that way. You have a power I don't understand and could never have.
You're wrong, Leia. You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have. The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. And my sister has it.
They gave her a moment in the film where she used her Force abilities, and it was great. Yeah, the use of Jedi powers was great. The VFX for Star Wars were beautifully and masterfully done. And I know some of you guys are jaded to VFX, especially when it comes to large franchises like Star Wars. You're like, of course, the VFX should be great. If they're not great, it's going to take us out of the whatever. But you got to really sit back and think about what you're seeing and how those things are created. Like, the scene that really took me out of it and made me think was and the effect is that the hyperdrive blasts her ship through Snoke's ship like a projectile and cracks it in half. And the way that that was animated was so well done. Creating the creatures, creating the worlds, the Voltex Crystal Fox things, and the Porgs, of course. Yeah, say Porgs again. Porg. It was all beautiful. My last point for positives was to see the Master, Yoda, on screen was beautiful. He didn't have to be a real person. His Force Ghost is still as impactful as the teachings of the Master. If you don't know, I am a Jedi. I know I'm wearing red today, but that's just because we're the new Jedi Order. We can wear whatever colors we want. But I trained under the teachings of Yoda, so to see Yoda on screen again and hear his teachings from his voice was great. And the fact that he looked like the original trilogy puppet Yoda as opposed to the full CGI Yoda was also great, because it just added those small touches that the fan service was done. So now I'm going to get into my negatives, and we're just going to get in. We're going to get through them, and I'm going to tell you why they're negatives and what could have been done to make them a little better, even if it kept the same story. So my first negative is the pacing. The pacing of The Last Jedi was kind of weird, and it was paced very differently than The Force Awakens, which is one thing that I think doesn't help the franchise that much. If you're making a trilogy that's a cohesive story, but you're making them with different directors, the tone and the pacing and small, subtle things will change from movie to movie. And so I felt like The Last Jedi just didn't pace like one continuous story the way The Force Awakens did. But my main problems with the pacing were more that things that were emphasized and things that were exaggerated in The Force Awakens to make them seem like they had payoffs in the future, and in The Last Jedi didn't have those payoffs. So the pacing of it is weird that, like, last film, you planted that Easter egg, you emphasized it, you hinted at it, and then boop, it's dead, it's gone. As soon as you get to The Last Jedi, that's almost how it felt. And then there were also some open ends that just are like, we get that there should still be some open ends because they want us to come back and watch more movies to learn these answers. But in a trilogy, it should read like a 3-act story, whereas some of the first act questions should have been solved in the second act, so that once you get to the third act, it can be a resolution of, all of the problems. Whereas now, if some of the things weren't addressed in The Last Jedi, if they are just addressed in the last movie, it's going to feel sort of like, here you go, boop, you got it. Like they just threw it at us instead of it really being flushed out in the story in a good way. Now, our understanding of the universe is that there's nobody else to stop people like the First Order, that it's just bad people, and then it's Luke and Leia and anyone with an X-Wing in the Resistance. So starting from scratch felt weird, and the character development also felt weird. It had same problems that I mentioned the story had, like pacing, open ends, starting from scratch. A lot of those characters developed and they had those same problems with their arcs. So Rey kind of failed her objectives. Finn kind of failed his objectives. Luke's objectives were kind of unclear. The entire Resistance failed their objective. And that was basically what it almost seems like that's what The Last Jedi was about. But so here, getting more in depth into Luke's part. So Luke's character arc, if you look just at Luke's arc by itself, is he had given up on the Jedi a while before this whole story started. Rey comes, he's like, nah, I still get up on the Jedi, I'll talk to you about it, but I don't think the Jedi should be a thing. One day he sees Yoda's Force Ghost. After that he's like, alright, I feel you, Jedi, that's a cool thing. And then after that, he's gone. His final act is him returning to the battlefield, keeping the last 20 members of the Resistance alive. But it almost seems like he didn't even need to do any of that. Maybe Rey could have done that stuff. I don't know. But so here are the problems that a lot of people talk about. The Rey parents situation as well as the Snoke situation. And it's sort of a problem for me as well. I'll tell you why it's a problem for me. I feel the people who say Snoke can be a new character, Rey can be a new character, they don't have to have relations to existing characters. That's perfectly fine. But we want to figure out why these characters are significant to the story, and they don't give us any indication at all in any way of why these characters are significant. We don't get any indication of why Rey is significant, why she's so powerful without any teaching at all. We don't get any indication of why Snoke is significant to the dark side, why he resurrected the First Order, why he turned Kylo Ren to the dark side, how he even turned Kylo Ren to the dark side, honestly. Why Snoke was made to see him like he was a strong Force user. First time we see him in person, he's controlling Rey with very little effort. He's throwing lightning, swinging people across the room. And then, just like that, Snoke's dead. Snoke is gone. Bye, Snoke. So the problem with that is Snoke didn't have to be a character we already knew, but Snoke has significance to the story, so we want at least a backstory for Snoke. Now that he is dead, we might still get this backstory, but no one's gonna care anymore. The main bad guy is dead early second movie, and it's like, well, where do the bad guys go from here? So, assuming Kylo Ren is the new Supreme Leader, he's the new big bad, I'm guessing he doesn't care about the Sith ways and the rule of two and getting an apprentice, so he's just gonna do it all on his own. But it's like, the story could have started with Kylo Ren in control. The story could have put less emphasis on Snoke. The story put this emphasis on these characters, and then the payoff for it was just dropped on the ground. And that's the reason I said Snoke's lack of a reveal and Rey's parents' lack of a reveal are together. Because, same thing with Rey, she didn't have to have connections to characters we already know. She could be a completely new character, that's fine. But why would the reveal of who her parents be just be something that Kylo Ren just drops in conversation as they're fighting? You're annoying, your parents traded you for junk. What? Your parents just traded you? And Kylo Ren knows this? Yet no one else knew any of this. Han Solo didn't know this. Luke Skywalker didn't know this. Leia, none of the people you talked to knew anything about your real origin. Maz Kanata. But Kylo Ren's like, oh yeah, I found out who you are. Your parents, they just gave you away. Bye. That seems like something that's an intentional misdirection. He was basically, he knew what her values were. Because when you make a film, in the words of Aaron Sorkin, he says your characters are made of their intentions and their obstacles. And her character was made on the fact that she didn't know who her parents was or where she came from, but she wanted to find out. Now that obstacle is not really there anymore. Even if she does actually have parents that are significant to the story, or parents that are significant to her force sensitive ability, or significant just to her life because they're her parents, now it doesn't even seem like she wants to know who it is because it was just dropped on the ground. But yeah, that's all I can think of. It's been an incredible journey for, like, this was a great time for me to watch all of the Star Wars films before I went to see that, because then I can really think about how it affects all the past films and how it will affect the future films and how they set up for it and plan for it and what they're gonna do next. And I'm excited, but I'm also just, I don't know, I'm just sad that Luke, Leia, and Han won't fly the skies anymore together. And that's it. That's my whole opinion. I believe that's everything I wrote on the card. So I advise you guys to go see The Last Jedi if you haven't. I think I'm gonna see it again because I really need to, like, get everything together, get all my thoughts together. And yeah, that's it. So just tell me how you felt about the movie, how you feel about the franchise in general. Tell me if you feel me, or tell me if you don't feel me. Also, rest in peace to Carrie Fisher.
What's interesting is that when you get Carrie going, she still remembers all the lines from the old films.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars.
Well, now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire.
I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed.
I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion to the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it.
You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.